Yeah, this is weird being in front of a camera again, but I had something I wanted to share, and I didn't feel like typing a note on Facebook, and I didn't want to just shorten it to a status. And figured why not do a video? I mean, I've done it before. But anyways, I I'm sure you guys have seen some of my posts from A.W. Tozer. He's just an awesome. He's an awesome author, and I love him because he's so straightforward. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. He calls crap for crap, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And I love the sincerity and the genuineness and his honesty. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a rare thing, honestly. And I think that's part why I have trouble relating to people sometimes, because inside of me, who I truly am, I want to just be very straightforward with people. But then I realize, like, sometimes you need to use tact, but too often I get wrapped up in trying to use tact and then, not hurt people's feelings, blah, 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 and then end up sugarcoating things anyways, and it's just like, well, that was pointless. But anyways, I wanted to read a quote, um, and he's talking about the fear of God, and it's from his book, Whatever Happened to Worship, and um, he's more or less talking not so much about musical worship, although he does explain that, that is a huge part of worship, and that's one of the ways that he worships. That's one of the ways he loves to worship. He says it. He sings completely off key, but he knows that God is listening and loves what he's hearing. But anyways, in this book, he's talking more about living lives of worship, and it's just been something that's kind of been stirring up inside of me as I read it. Um, and then in the second part, or I guess the last part of chapter 2, he starts talking about the fear of God, and how the fear of God has to do more with the awe and the reverence and just the awesomeness of God, and how those who are further away from God, and this is not direct quote, I'm paraphrasing it and just kind of giving a general idea, but he says basically that, those who are far away from God don't really fear him the way that they ought to. But those who are closest to him and who are as his sons and who do not need to fear him the most. And that thought right there is already compelling enough. But as he goes on, he comes to this point where he says, men think they know what fear means. And often I believe that we do think that we know. I mean, any number of us could say that we know what fear is. Any number of us could, rattle off a number of fears that we have, whether it be of heights or spiders or clowns, and I am picking fears that I myself or I know my friends have dealt with or are dealing with. Um, there's also fears of loneliness. There's fears of failure. For a long time, I dealt with the fear of letting people down, especially those who were over me and who I didn't want them to be disappointed, and that was a big fear for me for a long time. Um, and I mean, even now in this moment of my life, some things are shifting and being readjusted and stuff like that, and there's a fear of loneliness coming back, and I'm not worried about it because I know that God's got it in His hands. He's got me in His hands. He's got my future, and I have nothing to worry about. Um, and honestly, what I'm about to talk about is almost encouragement for myself to realize that that doesn't matter, and that fear is not good, and it needs to be surrendered. And so, we think we know what fear means because we think we have fear. And then he goes on to say, but we are talking about the awe and the reverence of a loving and holy God. That kind of a fear of God is a spiritual thing and can only be brought by the presence of God. Now, when you first hear that, that's like, that's a really profound thought. It's really cool, and it's very easy to skip over. But if you really think about it, though, the fear of God that the Bible talks about, that we should seek to have, that kind of fear only comes when you've been in the presence of God. And the image that I get when I think about this, to try and kind of understand what this fear would be like, and how we could kind of give a what was a good word for that? I guess a picture of what it's like to not really fear something until we've been in its presence. And this thought, and maybe it's because of Narnia and all of that influence and stuff like that. But I often, and obviously the Bible, the Lion and the Lamb, but I think about a lion. For the longest time, I really didn't know the size of lions, but then, as I got older and I would watch, either documentaries or other stuff where, there was an actual comparison of a human and a lion, and just seeing the massive size of a lion's head compared to, a human's upper body is just crazy. And that alone put more fear and respect in my heart for lions. But imagine what kind of fear and awe and reverence you would have if you were standing in front of a lion. But here's the thing, we can imagine, we can sit here, we can probably scare ourselves just imagining. But then when we get out of that state of picturing and imagining rather, ourselves in front of a lion, the fear goes away. It's like the fear that you have of your parents and disappointing them, or just the fear of whatever, but you fear them, or you should, if you have a biblical relationship. Just throwing that out there. But you fear them until you've been out of their presence for a little while. And then when you get out of their presence for a little while, and the voice in the back of your head kind of starts to die away, you start to do stupid things with your friends more regularly, and the stupid things get bigger and bigger until you end up climbing a wall in the middle of the night. I'm just kidding. Like, no, they never told me never to do that, so I can't really say I disobeyed. But anyways, but do you get what I'm going after? Once you've been away from them, the fear kind of goes away. But when you're in their presence, that's when you fear them. That's when you submit to their authority. If you were to have that experience in front of the lion and to feel his breath as he roared in your face, one, that would be disgusting because you'd probably get some of the slobber from inside of his mouth, but two, that would be absolutely terrifying. But you would fear and respect and have reverence for that lion. And that is beautiful to me. There's something in my spirit that says, Lord, let your roar come upon me. Let me feel the heat of your roar, because I want to fear you. I want to know what it's like to have that kind of awe and that kind of reverence for you. And I'm taking way too much time to get through this, but there's no other way to adequately kind of just describe what I'm feeling with this quote other than to take time. And often, as you know, referencing what I was talking about before, where we use tact and we don't want to hurt anybody or we don't want to offend anybody, I often cut myself short when I'm talking to people because often, for me, I can go over the same thought a couple times, but yet in my mind I'm looking at it from so many different angles, and it's like, this is so awesome. But yeah, he is a loving and a holy God, but he is a just God. And if you want to live a life that is in submission and surrender, and you want to know what it's like to fear him, you won't be able to do that because you won't understand who he is. You won't understand his majesty. You won't understand his glory. You won't understand his authority. You won't understand his power until you have been and dwelt, or rather, and remained or abided in his presence. That's pretty much it. I hope you got something out of it if you took the time to watch it. I don't really plan on doing too many more of these just because I don't know, I have friends to talk to, but I figured this would be cool to just kind of share with multiple people. But anyways, God bless you and God keep you. I mean, if you have a comment on this, or if you have something you want to add, or, you know, just, I mean, honestly, if you have something you want to confess, just confess to God and confess to the world. Well, not necessarily the world, but, you know, your brothers and sisters online. Do it. Um, yeah, this is by no means about me or just me talking. Hopefully this has kind of directed your thoughts and your mind and your reflection towards God and how you view him, and not, oh, well, that was a cool thing that Zach said. I appreciate the compliments and they do build me up, and I believe that as Christians that's what we should do, but let it never be about me. I struggle. Here's a confession of my own. I struggle too much with worrying about what people think about me, and I struggle too much already with trying to be as good as. So, I mean, if you think this is about me, don't watch any of the upcoming videos that I may put out. Anyways, enough rambling. Adios, muchachos, and yeah, anyways, bye.